Okay, it's about 20 past 8 and I've just had a meal at my campsite. So what a lovely way to spend a Saturday night. Hello, good morning. It's just gone 5 AM and I've been up about 5 or 6 minutes, just been over to the toilet block. You can see there's the sun rising. There's a fair bit of condensation actually. The grass is quite wet with dew and there's condensation on the tent, but I mean within an hour or so I think that'll all be dried off. I think it's a bit too early to be getting up and making coffee yet, so I'm just going to get back in my sleeping bag and let everything warm up a bit. I came to bed early last night, about 20 past 9 I think. I was just so tired. Temperature started to drop. There's people over there having a fire. They supply fire pits here and firewood, so that was really nice. It's quite buzzy here last night. Lots of dog walkers. Went over and had a chat with a guy in a mini who's camping, Scottish guy, so it's nice and friendly here. I'm not sure about paying actually. I just rode in behind the car which had activated the gates. I just came in and saw family over by that big blue tent, so I said, do I need to see someone or did they come and take your money? He said they'd come and find you. Nobody did last night, so I must go and find someone this morning to pay and work out to get out the gates as well. Thought I'd tell you a little bit about today's plans. So I left Bath on Friday and I'm now coming up to the thankful villages. You can see I've put them in a box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this morning or midday we should be getting to Puttenham, that's number 38 there, and then Stoke Hammond later. And then tonight I'm heading for somewhere around Bedford to camp. I'll show you on the route. So here is the whole route on the Ride with GPS app, and I'm round about 92 miles. There we are, Radnage. I'm a bit further than that mileage wise because I've come up onto Chiltern to do this camp. And the first thankful village is there at 108 miles, and then the second one will be there 122, and then I'll head round into, there's Bedford. Just south of Bedford there's a couple of campsites. Tell you more about how I found them later on. That's the plan for today anyway. The first 2 thankful villages and head for a campsite tonight. Well, it's gone 6 AM now. I've washed some clothes, got them out to dry, got my ground sheet out, got some hot water on for some coffee. I just thought I'd show you the ablutions facilities. So it's huge heavy duty PVC. It's almost like a military hospital. I think it's kind of an army tent for hospitals. And you've got the ladies in that door and the gents around the back. Outside washing up area with the bins, chemical waste, etc. So it's basic, but it's really, really nice. Everything you need. Hand sanitizers. There's this massive sip. Lights come on. Men's urinal, men's sinks, men's WCs. And there's 3 showers. And perfect, it's actually got a shelf in there. It's nothing worse than just not having anywhere to put your soap or shampoo. Just hang your coats and your clothes and all that out there, towel. So, yeah. I was saying to a chap in here last night, the previous night I'd had a shower in a horse box, first time ever, and he said, oh, you quite often see them at campsites. Sometimes they've been converted into like a mobile fish and chip shop, you know, for the campers. So maybe it's not as unusual as I first thought. So I find myself transitioning again from wild camping, as they call it these days, to wanting campsites. And when I first started cycle touring, I guess this is in the early 1980s, I'd been camping since the mid to late 1970s with friends. Always used to go to campsites, and if I couldn't get to a campsite when I cycled tour, it would be what we called rough camping. no showers, obviously you had to be self-contained, like with paper, that sort of thing, water, and it wasn't my first choice, it was always a last option. And then the last 15 years or so I've been rough camping, wild camping, and it's kind of got a little bit trendy and a lot of people are doing it, and I find myself drifting back to wanting to stay in campsites. I think I watched a couple of videos, my friend Terry who rides a Brompton on YouTube, and also Paul Messner walked the West Highland Way. I think he stayed in a couple of campsites, and it just made me sort of yearn for them. And so the last year or so I've been trying to find campsites, and this year I've actually downloaded this app. I'll show you it later on. It's a pretty good app actually, and it really helps you find campsites like this. There was a clip on YouTube as well that was a bit disturbing, to be honest, and it kind of reinforced the direction I'm going in. It was a farmer that was a bit irate about a cycle tourist camping on his land without permission, and he drove along and sprayed him with slurry, which is not a nice thing to do, but clearly the guy was angry. People must have been doing it a lot on his land, and he filmed it and made a point of it. And you'll find it on the internet, on Facebook or YouTube. Farmer sprays wild camper with slurry, and I just thought that was just so not nice really, and it just made me kind of realise that as much as I love rough camping, you know, you are on somebody else's land, and you've got to be kind of there late and gone early, and also be very responsible and discreet. So yeah, that's kind of almost pushed me back towards campsites. I'm hoping to find a campsite every night in this trip, apart from the last night where I'm booked into a travel lodge. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but so far with that app, touch wood, I've been finding them. I think I've got about 45 miles to do today to the first campsite, maybe 50-55 miles if I go to the second one, but I don't want to rush today because there's 2 thankful villages, and after all that's what we've actually come to see. I just followed the cars through those gates yesterday. I suppose I should have probably called maybe, but I just followed it in, and I said to one of the campers there, do I need to pay anyone or will they come round? And he said, oh, we'll wander around later on. Well, I saw the guy I've just spoken to wander around with some firewood last night. I was expecting him to come over, but he never did. I've just been to see him. He's actually the neighbour of the owner who's away, so I paid him. He sent me a receipt to my email. And then I just said, how do I get out? And he said, oh, your car will activate it. And he said, oh no, if you want to bite, you'll have to come out the side entrance. So that's what he's done, just let me out. Really nice site, quite high up on a hill. So now the plan is to go drop back down to Radnage, ride past the church. I'll stop there as well because there's a service at 11 AM this morning. I should get there before that. And then I'm heading up to the first 2 thankful villages, and I aim to get to somewhere around Bedford tonight. Anyway, really nice site actually, perched up on a hill, all these kites flying over. Back down at St Mary's Church, Radnage. Love this place. Looking back up, that's the hill line I've just dropped back down off. Some are up there actually. I'm just going to spend about half an hour sat in this lovely churchyard, thinking about Colin Firth on his first morning here, leaning out the belfry, waving over to the guy in the tent over there, which was actually Kenneth Branagh, who he became friends with. This is such a beautiful place. There's quite a bit of information in the porch. It's fairly dim in here, so I'll take the information board outside, just give you a quick overview. It says the wall paintings spanned 9 centuries, the earliest painted circa 1200. The font, possibly Saxon in origin, is said to have been dug up by a local farmer in a nearby field. The west window, designed and installed by Stuart Bowman in 2000 to mark the millennium. The nave roof, circa 1470. The pulpit, elegant oak panelled pulpit, is supported on a hexagonal shaft. It dates from 1680 in Charles II's reign. The parish beer, dated 1699. Haven't seen the beer actually. That's one of those trolleys with the wheels on, you know, to wheel coffins in. quite often the coffin will rest on it. Oh, I wonder if that's it down the back. Yeah, possibly an Anglo-Saxon font. That's the west window from 2000. See if I can get a picture of that. It's not coming up very well on the movie camera. No, that's not the beer. Wow, this is just so atmospheric with all the wall paintings. So, 9 centuries. The Michael Butler Vestry. Haven't spotted a beer. And the pulpit, dating from 1680, I think it said. Charles II's reign. It's amazing what you walk past, isn't it, without kind of noticing sometimes. Wow. Here's the chancel. These wonderful east-facing windows. I just love that. Please help yourself to tea and coffee. Some biscuits there as well, chocolate biscuits. Cold drink yesterday, that was really nice. Needed it. This wonderful bell tower. Well, it's coming up for 9 AM, so I think it's time to gather my stuff from inside, start heading off. So back down there, just carry on the way I was heading actually. There's those kites up there, look. Been seeing those all weekend actually. Loads around the campsite on Friday and last night. I think it's 17 miles to our first thankful village, Puttenham. It looks like we're skirting along the northern edge of the Chiltern, so whether it's hilly today or whether at the foot of them, I'm not sure. So hopefully lunchtime, soon after lunchtime, we'll be at our first of our 6 thankful villages. Kite and a jet plane. It's now mid-morning and I think I'm leaving the Chiltern Hills area of outstanding natural beauty. That's it up there. So the ride up from Radnage was quite hard, very, very quiet though. And then I got on some fairly main roads, but all of them had pavements and cycle paths along. And the reason I bought the Wayfarers meals, they're backups really. I thought maybe on a Sunday I may struggle to find something open. It was yesterday I couldn't find anything. Saturday I've been passing loads of shops, so I've got sandwiches for lunch and I've got a tin of chicken curry for tonight, and I'm just about to turn off this main road. A lot of the signposts are pointing me towards Aylesbury, so it gives you the idea of where we are. So we're dropping down off this ridge. So although we didn't go back up onto the Chilterns, there was lots of turnings off to the right. I might just as well have done because the road's been up and down roller coaster. So I'm heading down that way. I think I've got about 7 or 8 miles to Puttenham, my first thankful village. So that's where I'm aiming to stop for lunch, and if there's a church there, that's what I'll be heading for. Now making my way through these small lovely villages just north of the Chilterns. You can see the ridgeline of the Chilterns about a mile away up there. I've just crossed in the Grand Union Canal. I knew this was coming today, it just suddenly caught me by surprise. What a lovely spot. That's my route. I'm going that way, top this lock. There's a series of locks here. I can see the water spilling over that one, but have a look under this bridge. This is probably going to be one of the thumbnails for my video actually. How is that? Wow. So there's weatherboarded apartments there. There's sun verandas. Just that lovely sound of water gushing through the lock there. And all the light streams flickering along. Wow. Wow, how lovely. Wow, I bet these are worth a bit. Such a beautiful location. That's where I just come in. Went down there to the church. I did have a quick look at that green because there was a notice board there. And the ladies told me to come back up. She said, look for the green shed, which is up on there, Old Village Hall. And she said there's an upright stone and the plaque set back in the stone. Here we are. These are the plaques I look for. There it says Puttenham 1914 to 2014, a thankful village. And these were donated to all the thankful villages at the time by a couple of bikers who organised a big motorcycle tour, and they visited all the villages. I think it was a 2,000-mile ride. As I said, not all of the villages have got them because at the time I think there were only 53 known. So I don't know the ones that weren't known, the ones that have been discovered since. But as you can see, it'd be quite easy to miss really, because I came up down there just a few yards past. There's another slate plaque here actually, I've never seen that before actually. A thankful village denotes where all who enlisted to serve in World War I returned without loss. And the lady was showing me in the church, there's a big plaque with all the names. 71 people lived in the village, and I think there was about 18 or 20 that went, and they all returned safely. And that says the Puttenham Trust. Nice little logo. So it's just a case of where to leave it. I try not to tie them, just in case people do not want them there. So I'll probably just loop it round the corner. I sometimes loop them round the corner, but because this has been set in recessed, I don't really think I can. I've tried it, but it just won't go in. So I think what I'm going to do is just leave it at the bottom there. Puttenham, a thankful village. I've changed my mind. I think that might just blow away a little bit too easily. So what I've done is I've just tied it to this road post, reduced speed now post. There we are, thankful village poppy from Bath. See the Chilterns over in the distance of that wooded ridge line. Since we've dropped off, it's just been so nice. You can hear the roar of traffic over there actually. In fact, I heard heavy traffic all through the night. It must be quite close to a motorway, that M40 possibly. Right, I'm going to go back down that way, down to church and have my lunch. Wow, lovely place to have my lunch. Village hall there by the look of it, wooden cross at the entrance. It's a lane back that road, so I'll be heading back to that dog leg, back down that way. And I've just had a look on Google Maps, and Stoke Hammond, according to Google Maps, is 6 miles away. So I'll be getting that this afternoon. Just having my lunch here. Got a bacon, lettuce and tomato sandwich. And I've got my squash, some chocolate chip cookies. And I've had a wander around. I've orbited the churchyard. And there's a water tap round the back, so I can drink plentifully here and then make up a squash just before I leave. That was so nice, that lady, just to show me around. I felt a bit awkward really, because you know, who knows, she may want to get home for a lunch. But ever so nice, told me a little bit about the history. Looking at the church, just a casual glance, you can see all different building materials, and it's almost suggests like a timeline of different extensions and add-ons over the years. And I mentioned that to the lady as we went in, and she said this church dates from the 1200s, but they think there was a Saxon church here before, and it was built on the top of that. She said because where the bell tower joins the nave, there's a bit of what they think was stonework from the previous church, because it's circular, whereas all the pillars inside are straight or they're hexagonal. So she thinks that was part of the old church, and she also thinks possibly the font came from the old church because that was circular as well. It wouldn't really have tied in with the newer hexagonal pillars. She was saying nobody's 100% sure, but that's what it suggests. There was a Saxon church here before, and there's parts of it possibly remaining. Just skirting around the outskirts of Leighton Buzzard, a couple of miles south of Stoke Hammond, our next thankful village. Here we are then, just coming into Stoke Hammond. Very, very different to the last village. I've just skirted my way around the outskirts of Leighton Buzzard without going right through the middle of it. Anyway, I've just turned off quite a busy road, but even this road going through the village, it looks more like a town than a village, to be honest. I guess I'm heading for the church. I'll just follow my nose and try and find the sign. But yeah, well, you can see by the traffic, there's certainly a contrast to the last village. Well, you may get the drift. I think what used to be a village is now turned into kind of a new town. Lots of red brick homes here, commuter town. Big community field down there, community centre. My Garmin brought me up here to a dog leg. I must have routed it here thinking, oh, community centre, possible place for the plaque. But I'm going to go back and join the main road, and then if I take a left loop round, there's a church up there. I think that's probably the more likely place to look for the plaque. But it's always worth coming to places like this because you never know, sometimes they are in places like this. And I just came back up from the community centre, turned right, I was going to head up to the church, and I suddenly saw that sign there, and that's where the plaque is, right underneath it. I saw this green with one of those World War I two-dimensional memorials around it with some red poppies, so I thought it may be here somewhere. So that is it there. Stoke Hammond, 1914 to 2014, a thankful village. It's a centenary to mark the outbreak of the First World War. And look at the village sign, Stoke Hammond, a thankful village. Here's one of my poppies blowing in the wind. There's a wreath of poppies underneath. You can see this side, it says a thankful village. Stoke Hammond is one of the handful of thankful villages, thankful that no men were lost in World War II. On this side it says RAF Stoke Hammond, 1943 to 1973. Secret wireless station for Bletchley Park in World War II, and RAF Stanbridge for the Cold War in remembrance. And this side, it's got the Thankful Village plaque. That's what I tend to do. I tend to just hook it over, make sure it's not obscuring anything. People can easily remove it if they don't want it there. There's my mark of remembrance and respect. Stoke Hammond, 1914 to 2014, a thankful village. So I'm going to head over there, get some fluids and an ice cream, and go and find the church and sit in the churchyard and hopefully charge some devices. Then I'll have a look at my app and see where I may head for a campsite. When I left the stores, you climb up a little rise and it feels like you're getting into the old village. That seems to be like the new town down there. Commuter convenient, I guess. This feels much more like a village, apart from the incessant noise of the traffic nearby. Lovely shaded walk up the church, but of course being south facing, it's bathed in really strong sunshine. I've just been round the back actually. There's a toilet block there, although it's kept locked. Church itself is locked, which doesn't really surprise me. I was hoping for a seat round the north side, Second best thing, there's a bench on the east in some shade, so that's where I'm going to have my ice cream and some refreshments. St Luke's Church. So set up on this hillside here, you can just hear the roar of traffic over there. It's nice up here, it's old water pump there. There is actually a tap round the corner, but much needed shade here underneath the chancel window. At the stores right opposite that green with the memorial plaque and that lovely village sign, I just picked up a Calippo Cola can of Tango. I wasn't sure if this church would have a water tap, so I bought a bottle of water, but as it turns out it has got a tap round the corner. But I've said this before, actually, just taking your shoes off on a hot day just for 5 or 10 minutes, it feels like having a foot massage. It really does feel refreshing. It's a nice breeze coming here actually. Then once I've had this, I'll probably get my mobile phone up, put the app on, and I'll show you what the app is and how I've been using it. Actually, I'm a newcomer to it, so I'm just finding my way around, but I'm pretty impressed with it so far actually. So because I've started wanting to use campsites, I actually just did a Google search and I came across this website called ukcampsites.co.uk, and it said download our app, and I didn't click the link to it. I went to the Play Store to make sure it's secure, and it was, and it's really good. You get the big map there, and you can either tap in a location up there, or you can search campsites nearby, or let me show you if we're not far from Milton Keynes, or you can just double tap it and it gives you campsites within a certain radius. There you go, see? So then you get a more detailed search. You can go for caravans, motorhomes, camper vans, all sorts of things. I've just put in tents, and then you can change the scale to 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles. So I'm just going to go 5 miles, and then I'll go back to the map. There's a 15-mile radius of Bedford. I know I'm coming in from the south, and then I'm heading east. So I think I might scoot over that one near Fitwick. I can literally just come up there. When I get to a certain junction, I can just detour to it. If I'm making good progress and I don't want to stop too soon, I can carry on to that one there. So if I tap that, it'll tell you more about it. I need to put my reading glasses on to read all this. So you can see I've got no affiliation or whatever to this. It's the first camping app I've tried to use, and at the moment it's working out really, really well. I love the choice actually. You can either double tap the screen, you can ask it to search nearby, you just have to authorize it to log your location, or you can type in a postcode or a town. Brilliant. So I've just been and got my reading glasses so I can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm at Stoke Hammond, 122 miles into the route, and when I cross the M1 there, I can take that road along there to Pulloxhill, and I think that's where the campsite is, round about there. So I've got a plan then. This is 122 miles into my route, and when I cross the M1, which is a good signpost to head for, that'll be 138 miles, and then I'll leave my route then and start weaving over to Flitwick, where this campsite is. So it's probably another 10-12 miles. I said I've done 30 already, so that's more than enough for me today. That's the plan anyway. We'll see if it pans out that way. Okay, bang on cue. I crossed over the M1 and did an immediate right. So I'm actually now off my GPX route, and this road, which has got a cycle path alongside it, signposted to Pulloxhill, which is there. Then I go along there and take a right at some point, start following the signs for Flitwick, and that's what I'm looking for, Pulloxhill. It's probably about 5 PM. I'll check the time shortly. I've just arrived at my campsite. I say campsite, it's kind of like a boundary wall, around a cricket pitch, but it's behind a pub. It's at a place called Pulloxhill. So my route was going up towards Bedford, turning right and like running long parallel underneath it and going back down, and I saw this campsite south of that line, so I just basically cut a little bit of a corner off, and it was called Pulloxhill, and I thought, oh great, I've got a massive long climb at the end of the day. But it's not. It's not. It's probably a slight little lump compared to what's around here, but this afternoon's been quite easy. Just been very, very hot again. It's 20 to 7 now, and gosh, it's still very, very warm, even though the sun's sinking over that way. So when I got here, because there's no showers or anything, I made sure I filled up with loads of water over at the pub, and I had a strip wash behind my tent. Then I washed my clothes. I've just boiled out the bucket because I'm obviously going to do my pots and pan washing in that later on. Don't want to catch anything. So I have been getting everything dry every day, actually, just by bunging it on the back. So each morning I've got clean clothes to change into, and also I've got 3 sets anyway. So there's one I'm wearing, one that's drying, and I've got the other set just in case it rains or I don't get them dry. It was too hot to start cooking earlier on. Now it's cooling down a little bit. I'm just putting some pasta on. I've got all these bags of either rice or pasta, well, spaghetti. I just snapped spaghetti into 3 to make them easier to transport. And today I've got chicken curry, so I'll just be boiling that off, draining it, pouring that in, and then boiling some more water there for the washing up. Today, Sunday, I've just passed tons of places, so I've been eating a lot of fruit all day. Got myself some sandwiches, fresh made sandwiches for lunch, and picked up that tin of chicken curries. Oh yeah, Sunday shopping, I guess. Quite shattered. It's been about 50 miles today. So when I crossed the M1, I saw there was this campsite, so I've cut across here. So I'm south of where I should be. But I've just had a look at the ride with GPS app, and it's easy just to carry on through this village, take the next left-hand turn, and it'll start taking me back up to my proposed route. In fact, I can cut a few miles off. So the next village tomorrow will be Toft, and then there's another one after that, which I can't remember at the moment, and then that's 4, and then it's quite a long way down to southern East Anglia and down there. So 2 more villages tomorrow. I'm not sure when the final 2 will be. Anyway, I'm just suddenly starting to get really hungry, and now it is slightly cooling. That sun was just so intense earlier on, which is great. It got everything dry, got rid of all the dew that was condensation, that was a little bit of residue on the tent, that sort of thing. I did wander up the pub and see if there was a table at the front, because sometimes they have plug sockets, and I quite often charge my devices there. So I've depleted my 10,000 milliamp hour power pack. I've just gone over to my 20,000 milliamp hour power pack, so you can see I'm doing my phone, charging the Garmin. I'll do the other Garmin. That's the main things. I cannot afford to let those lose power. Then tomorrow on the road, because I think I've made good progress today, I'll probably stop at a church, or if I see a pub with outside sockets, that sort of thing, just half hour at a time, just to top the phone up really, and try and get a bit more power back in the 10,000 milliamp hour power pack. So it'd be good to have that fully charged by the time that depletes, if that makes sense. Well, the pasta's boiled, I've drained it, and I've stirred in the chicken curry. That looks nice. I don't normally eat out pans, so I really don't like it, but I'm going to tonight. Not so much to save up on washing, just in case I have to reheat it. Once it's on a plate, it can go cold quite quick, and also that looks like it might be a bit messy to eat on a plate. Anyway, bon appetit. I'm going to plonk myself over against that post there. It's now about 8 PM and it's still really, really warm. I'm in shirt sleeves. I was bare chested earlier on. It was so hot when I first got here. Not sure if it's coming out on the microphone, on the camera. There's jazz playing over there. Sounds like they've got a live band playing. Do you know, considering I'm outside a pub, I just really don't fancy alcohol. I really do not. I think a bit dehydrated, and that would probably just make it worse. I've made sure I've had plenty to drink. I've filled up that 4-litre water container twice. That's how much I've been getting through. I had to do all my washing, my clothes and myself as well as the washing up and the cooking. But that's how hot it was. So I did over 50 miles today. I did 60 miles on Friday. I think it's 39, shade under 40 yesterday. So I'm just very aware that I don't want to rush this trip, otherwise I'm going to get to the coast too soon. So I do want a bit of sitting around on the beach eating ice creams, but I just don't want to get there too early, if that makes sense. Otherwise I'll be doing 5-6 mile days, and I don't want that. It's about 20 past 9 now, and I'm all pretty much ready for bed actually. Starting to feel tired as well, so I'll leave the water bag outside. When the fly sheet comes down, it'll cover up my cook pots for tomorrow morning. I'm actually going to leave the washing on the handlebars. It's almost dry, most of that. Yeah, there'll probably be a bit of condensation overnight. There could well be a bit of wind that should dry it out, but even if there's condensation, that'll dry tomorrow. I'll just wander up and show you the amazing atmosphere on the back of the pub. There's the big gazebo type tent there. That looks fairly permanent actually. There's solid wooden doors in there, heavy duty PVC, so it's got a load of coloured lights on. Tables outside for the cricket. Looking over the sun going down. Love this time of year. Just listen to this music coming up. You can see it's a certified site for the Camping and Caravanning Club. The main part of the pub is a building down near the road, but again, another one of these outside areas. That's where the music's coming from. When I arrived this afternoon, about 5:15 p.m, that was actually leaving that garden with families. That's just a really nice sound to literally close my tent down, listen to. It's not excessively loud, but I can hear it drifting down to the tent. I think that'll probably help me get off to sleep. It's a beautiful June evening. Sun's only just set. So I've just been comparing Google Maps to Ride with GPS my route, and I'm about 5, 6, 7 miles south of my proposed route, and I need to go along parallel to it and then start heading up to join it, because it goes along and does this square almost where it joins Toft, the first of the Thankful Villages, tomorrow, and then it starts heading south. So I need to intersect it just before that junction. According to Google Maps, it'll take me about 2 hours. But it's not as though I've got to go all the way back up the route. I've cut a big corner of it off actually, or I'm replicating it. And then the second village will be about 10-12 miles after that, Strathall. Then after that I'll just be looking for somewhere to camp again, because the final 2 villages won't be until later in the week. I got to weave myself all around like Greater London really, and then get across to Ipswich, and it's on the outskirts of Ipswich. And again, there's one fairly close to another. I'm just loving that sound back there. That's fairly middle of the road music, but I like any sort of music really. That's just so evocative really. Today's been quite hard actually, for a few reasons. I dropped down from the campsite back down to Radnage, had a lovely look around the church for about 40 minutes. Then it's quite a long grind up over another hill. Now I dropped down to what felt like the northern edge of the Chiltern hills, and although I never went back up in elevation, I might just as well have, because it was up and down, up and down, up and down, roller coastery. And then eventually I turned left, dropped right down from them, moved away from the Chilterns, and that's when I got to my first Thankful Village, soon after crossing the Great Western Canal. And then the next leg was quite hot and like urban, skirting around the edge of Leighton Buzzard, and even Stoke Hammond is not much of a village anymore. It used to be once upon a time maybe, but it's a big town now, commuter town. And then after that it just got really hot, and that's when I decided as soon as I crossed the M1 I would start deviating off my route and head for this campsite, and I was so glad I did actually. By the time I got here I was pretty hot and sweaty and just ready to stop. 50 miles, so a good day's riding actually, so I'm pretty sure I'll sleep well. I'll see you in the morning for day 4 of the Thankful Villages cycle tour.